This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Scaled back. The search for two missing children in rural Pictou County slows. Fire prevention. Halifax Fire urges the use of smoke alarms after two recent fatal fires. And CBU cuts. Cape Breton University slashes programs and jobs amid a budget shortfall.
Showers tonight, lingering into early Thursday, then clearing skies with some sun and cloud developing. Your full forecast details are coming up.
6 days after 6-year-old Lily Sullivan and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan disappeared from their home in rural northeastern Nova Scotia, the RCMP announced today their search for the two siblings is being scaled back, saying there's little chance they are alive. The CBC's Blair Rhodes joins us now live from the search area in Pictou County with the latest. Blair.
Tom, the mood here was solemn as the searchers were told that despite their best efforts, they were scaling back the search. Before the news conference, RCMP told Jack and Lily's family, their stepfather, Daniel Martel, said he's not giving up.
I'm still holding out hope. I don't know why they didn't find anything from Jack's pull-up to her backpack or any of her belongings at all. They just haven't found anything.
Now, while the family may have some hope, the police say that after 6 days of often extreme conditions, the children were still in the woods, they wouldn't be alive. So now they said it came down to a question of survivability.
And a number of factors would have to take into consideration, and they would, based upon scientific information that they have, to deem when that time has to come, and that is now. And a lot of those factors come into play would be the age of the missing persons, the weather, how long it's been, what area it's been covered. So at that point, they have to make a decision on that.
Now, from the very beginning, they described this disappearance as suspicious. That's standard in missing persons cases like this. Today, we were asking the police, because the Major Crime Unit has been part of this investigation since the weekend, as to whether they could elaborate on that. But they didn't want to answer questions about whether they had detected any criminal activity in connection with this.
When somebody goes missing and we become engaged as any police officer, not just major crime, we will look at all the details and make considerations on the information we have, right? When it comes to a missing person, we have to automatically consider are there people that have different charter implications and things like that? So we will automatically start to consider what evidence is pointing us towards a suspicious in nature. Again, I can't comment more than that, but every missing person case, we would approach it from the same process. A methodical collection and review of information with decisions based on that.
Now, when police say they're scaling back, what they mean by that is they will be going back over some of the areas they've already searched, taking another look to see if there's anything they missed. Tom?
All right, Blair, thanks for that. That is CBC's Blair Rhodes reporting live for us from Pictou County this evening. Halifax Fire and Emergency is issuing another reminder today that smoke alarms can save lives after investigations into two fatal fires in January. No operating smoke alarms were found in either of two house fires in which 5 people died. The department is also warning about leaving electrical devices plugged in and left unattended, which also happened in both of the fires. Gareth Hampshire reports.
Halifax Fire is reminding everyone to check their smoke alarms are working, following investigations into the 2 fatal fires in January. 3 children died in the Lower Sackville fire. 2 men died in the Dartmouth one. Investigators determined there were no operating smoke alarms in either home.
So we know that smoke alarms save lives. Smoke alarms give occupants time to evacuate a building. They also cause the fire department to come sooner because an undetected fire can burn a long time.
Firefighters got to the Lower Sackville duplex within 7 minutes of being called and pulled 3 children from the home. They died later. They responded to the Dartmouth fire in about 5 minutes. 2 men got out of the house to the front lawn but were badly injured and also died later.
These fires stick with our firefighters. You know, all fatality fires have a toll on their mental wellness at work, and where children are involved, it's particularly difficult.
It has been revealed there was a smoke alarm in the Lower Sackville home, but there was no battery in it. In the Dartmouth home, no smoke alarms were found. Halifax Fire says they should be on every level and inside every bedroom. The department's also warning about the danger of leaving electrical devices plugged in and unattended. Investigators found the Lower Sackville fire started because of a portable battery bank that was plugged in and left alone near a sofa. And they believe the source of the Dartmouth fire was from a damaged power cord to an electric heating blanket.
Unattended electrical devices can overheat or fail when left plugged in. Turn off and unplug devices when not in use. Avoid placing chargers or devices on upholstered surfaces, cushions, or blankets.
Halifax Fire wants everyone to know it will also help people if they cannot afford smoke alarms. Anyone needing that support is encouraged to call 311. Firefighters will then visit people's homes and install them. Gareth Hampshire, CBC News, Halifax.
2 security guards at the Colchester East Hants Health Centre suffered serious injuries after a reported assault Tuesday. Police in Truro say it happened at 1:30 in the afternoon. The suspect in the attack is a 16-year-old male. He was arrested at the scene and charged with assault with a weapon and assault causing bodily harm. He appeared in Truro Provincial Court earlier today. Halifax is working on implementing a new bystander intervention training program for all city staff within the next year. It's meant to give employees the tools to step up and intervene when they see harassment or potentially violent behaviors going on in public places.
Folks feel that if, as a community, we had more skills and tools to be able to identify when harmful behavior is taking place and then find small ways to potentially step in and intervene in a safe way that makes sense for the situation, that is a supportive part of a safe community, knowing that your community is kind of looking out for you.
Bystander intervention training is among the many recommendations of the Mass Casualty Commission. The Commission says the training should be made available to all staff at all levels of government. Cape Breton University expects to cut some programs and positions over the next year after they just passed an operating budget, which includes a nearly $7 million deficit. The university says the budget shortfall can be attributed to a drop in international student enrollment. CBU has already suspended 3 programs, including 2 related to business and healthcare management. The university also plans to cut at least 56 positions. 14 of those will be eliminated through attrition and not filling vacancies. 56 term positions will also not be renewed. The Vice President of Finance and Operations at CBU says the university is working on a 3-year plan to bring the budget back to balance. And with us now from the CBC Weather Center, Ryan Snoddon. Ryan.
Hey, Tom. Yeah, listen, still keeping the umbrella handy for tonight as we're looking at these showers that continue to sail through from south to north. Now, most of the action right now is across western and central parts of Nova Scotia, but still seeing some showers across Cape Breton in the east as well. But this line will continue to work its way in for tonight. There's the center of the low off to our northwest. That moves off, and we will indeed see some reprieve as we move into Thursday. Any showers wrapping up pretty early in the morning across Cape Breton in the east. And the clouds, they're going to be stubborn, no doubt. A sluggish start, but by the time the wheels get turning towards the late morning and early afternoon, this is going to turn into a pretty nice day. Widespread temperatures in the high teens, low 20s. The warmest temps are going to be away from this onshore southwest flow. So talking low 20s for the North Shore, and will likely be near 20 in through the valley and in through the Bridgewater area, metro area, definitely comfortably into the 16 range, as mild as 18, 19 inland. There's the system moving out, and you can see that sunshine breaking in, which will warm us quite nicely for Thursday. Friday, the winds shift back to northerly, so a cool down for Friday. Clouds likely dominating, and you can see that a couple of shower chances maybe in the south. This will lead us into Saturday, which will be looking rather damp, especially into the afternoon and evening as this next system moves in, which of course leads us to Mother's Day, the all-important Mother's Day forecast, and looking optimistic for that one, Tom. We'll break it down with your 7-day coming up.
Good, lots will be wondering. Okay, thanks so much, Ryan.
Thank you.
Well, the spring lobster season has just begun in fishing areas off Cape Breton, but harvesters say they are concerned by low lobster prices so far this season. LFA 28 and 29 opened May the 2nd. Upon opening, fishermen were getting $9.50 per pound, but that dropped to $7 earlier this week. Harvesters tell CBC they believe the threat of tariffs and an abundance of stock are contributing factors to the price drop. Last year, the price of lobster soared to more than $18 per pound at times. A brush fire in Glace Bay tied up resources for hours on Tuesday. It happened here, close to this residential neighborhood in the south end of the community. Fire departments from Glace Bay, Dominion, and Reserve Mines worked together to battle the blaze for about 4 hours. The fire chief said they were able to get it under control quickly, but a nearby hospital was affected by smoke.
When the smoke conditions, the wind is blowing towards the hospital, any fires in that area directly affected because of their air handling units. That was one of the concerns we were having as the fire was getting closer to the hospital and growing, was the amount of smoke that was heading that way. With that in mind, we called in a multitude of resources to bring the fire under control.
The $25,000 fine for illegal burning in Nova Scotia is now permanent. There is no word on the cause of this fire. Naturalists in the Maritimes are celebrating a major milestone in mushrooms. They have been collecting samples for the last couple of years and sending them for DNA testing. Now, more than 1,000 samples have been collected on Prince Edward Island. Nancy Russell reports.
Look, here's a mushroom.
PEI naturalists have been on the hunt for mushrooms for the last couple of years, trying to tally up as many unique species as possible. And they just hit a major milestone, surpassing the 1,000 mark.
We started out in 2020 with 95 mushrooms, but our neighbouring provinces had, more like 1,000 or over, or slightly under. So we wanted to aim for 1,000. And now we've gotten to 1,003.
Rosemary Curley says they have had lots of help, more than 800 volunteer observers, and not just in the woods, but also on PEI beaches.
I never did get a chance to go out with Ken Sanderson, but he has found over 82. I think it is 82 species on the sand dunes, and a lot of them I think are on the face of the sand dunes, and a lot of them I believe are quite tiny. So when you walk by them, as I have done for years, you don't see them. You have to look. A lot of this is new anywhere, like no one has really looked before at this habitat.
The collectors on PEI send samples of the mushrooms here to a lab at the New Brunswick Museum. Mycologist Alfredo Justo takes tiny samples and sends them to another lab for analysis.
So far has been able to sequence over 70,000 samples of mushrooms across North America.
Justo says there is still more work to be done.
For me, as a mycologist, I've always been fascinated with the endless diversity of mushrooms. They're truly endless. And I've been studying them for over 25 years, and I discover new things about them every day. So that's what really keeps me going and interested in diversity, and especially in North America, and especially in our corner of Canada, we literally have undescribed species in our backyards.
There's so many people are just so interested in them. There's such a range of beauty in the mushrooms, and they're just very fascinating for a lot of people.
Rosemary Curley says it's easy to get involved in the quest for mushrooms with an app called iNaturalist. She says the season for mushrooms on PEI has now started. Nancy Russell, CBC News, Stratford.
A Dartmouth-based company is developing compostable menstrual products believed to be the first of their kind in Canada. Aruna Revolution works with local farmers to collect parts of plants not used on the farm, such as corn husks and soy plants. The materials are cleaned, dried, and processed into a soft fiber that's used to make the product, including the adhesive. The company's goal is to reduce the number of menstrual products that end up in landfills.
This whole idea came up out of realization of the amount of waste that menstrual products contributes to the environment. And, Rashmi, who is the CEO of Aruna Revolution, one day got her period and she was so frustrated that she had to, throw yet another pad into the garbage bin. And she didn't like the fact that she had to pick between her well-being and also the well-being of the planet.
The products are currently sold online. The company hopes to get them on store shelves in the coming months. Tonight, PWHL players with the Toronto Scepters are headed for a semi-final playoff rematch against the Minnesota Frost. The Toronto team includes a few Nova Scotia players, including Blair Turnbull of Stellarton and Ali Monroe of Yarmouth.
I think we're excited. I know some of us obviously are using it as motivation. You have a little bit of a sour taste in your mouth from last year if you're on the team for sure. But I think we're focused on our new group along with that. And we're excited for this team to take on Minnesota, totally different team. So we're pretty pumped up.
On Saturday, the Scepters named Monroe as a new alternate captain. The puck drops for Game 1 of the best-of-5 series between the Scepters and the Frost at 8 p.m. Atlantic Time. Ryan Snoddon up next with your full weather forecast. It's clouded over, rainy in spots. He'll tell us all about it in just a few moments. Well, we can't complain with the weather so far this week, but things turning gray for sure. Damp out there as well. Good for the grass.
Great for the grass. Yes, we do need the moisture.
Yeah.
Especially before we turn into warm season, and of course, watching that burn ban that's of course off and on over the last few weeks, and this will certainly help to continue to green things up as we get through this transition season. And the fog has been a factor today. Have a look at this. This is a shot from.
Oh yeah.
Can you tell?
I think I recognize the landmark, but it's pretty foggy for sure.
Any town, Nova Scotia, especially along the Atlantic coastline. But yeah, that is, of course, Peggy's Cove and a live shot there. I don't see anyone out taking in the sights there.
Not sure you would see them if they were there.
Yeah, it's true. So yeah, obviously socked in there along the Atlantic coastline today. As we look at those temperatures out there right now, well, it's actually 20 degrees in through Cheticamp right now in Inverness County. That is the hot spot. Ingonish is at 19. We're hanging on to 16, 17 degrees in around the North Shore, 17 in through the valley, and those single-digit temperatures in and along the Atlantic coastline with that onshore flow. That has been certainly our cooler spot today. Not too gusty, but just a sustained southerly wind that has been helping to usher in these showers that have been working through in rounds today, and some of those have been pretty steady for sure, especially that earlier morning batch that worked through the metro area. Now we're watching kind of the heaviest clusters working up through the Cumberland County area and back into Lunenburg as well, and these are going to continue to sail in for tonight along this frontal boundary. This low is going to be working its way through pretty quickly, though, through the overnight tonight, and we will see some gradual clearing pretty quickly late overnight into the early morning hours of tomorrow. In terms of the precipitation, the clouds are going to be stubborn for a little bit longer, but they will clear as well as this area of high pressure tucks into the region, keeping us quiet. And then we've got this next low right here, gathering steam across the U.S. South. That is going to be working its way in for Saturday. How about the temperatures across Florida right now? 32 in Orlando, 32 at Brownsville, Texas as well. How about temperatures here across Canada? 16 rather in Vancouver, 20 degrees in through Alberta, 23 in Regina, and also 23 in Toronto. And we will be tapping back into some of those high teens, low 20s in our forecast. So let's walk you through it. Overnight tonight, temperatures are going to be in that 8 to 12 range. Those southerly winds sustain near 20, 30, some gusts upwards of 30 to 40 kilometers per hour, even a gust to 50 in Cape Breton, not out of the question. Note the showers, certainly prevalent over through the evening. Into the overnight, though, there's that clear out. By 7 a.m., most of the mainland has cleared. I think if you're heading out around this time tomorrow morning, it is Cape Breton, Antigonish, but more so Guysborough into the Sheet Harbor area. This is where we have that best chance of seeing some lingering showers for the early morning hours. Then that fog will retreat back to the coastline and will become a mix of sun and cloud for tomorrow. And it really will warm quite nicely under that mix of sun and cloud. Likely cracking 20 in and around the Bredor Lakes area for tomorrow. Port Hood, pretty close, as well as Ingonish. Slight onshore flow for Cheticamp tomorrow, but the more dominant flow will be along Richmond County, keeping temperatures cooler there. Canso at 10, but Port Hawkesbury likely near 16, as well as the town of Guysborough, 18 in through Sherbrooke and Antigonish, back through Pictou County. That's our best chance of getting into those low 20s, as well as Truro. And the really variable metro area tomorrow, 12 in those onshore winds, but 16 likely around the peninsula. But work your way up into Fall River and Enfield. You'll likely find some 18 to 19 degree temperatures, 14 in Parsboro, and even an onshore flow, a light one, but that's going to be the case in the valley tomorrow. So places right along that Fundy coastline are going to be cooler, 17 to 19 degrees though for inland areas. Now, as we look at the forecast for Friday, quiet, and you can see that cloud cover will be stubborn, and we are looking at that wet weather brewing. Note that Friday temperatures will be warmer. Yarmouth with that offshore flow, so favorable for you folks, just single digits likely along that north coast. And here comes the wet weather for Saturday. Looks like it may hold off until at least the steadier showers until the afternoon, but certainly looking damp towards the end of the day. Isolated shower chances on Mother's Day, Tom. The best chances are going to be in the east of the province, and they do look isolated, so I think a pretty favorable day for the moms out there if you want to maybe head out for a walk.
Yeah, we can work around that. Okay, thanks so much, Ryan.
Thank you.
Coming up, with a multi-million-dollar deficit, CBU is working on a plan to bring their budget back to balance. Cape Breton University has cut programs and will eliminate a number of positions over the next year in the face of a budget shortfall. The university's Board of Governors passed an operating budget this week, which includes a $6.8 million deficit. The university blames a drop in international student enrollment. Gordon McGuinness is the Vice President of Finance and Operations at Cape Breton University. Sir, how difficult a time has this been for CBU?
It's been a challenging few months dealing with the impact of the IRCC policy changes. We've been working pretty hard to try to internalize and adjust the organization for what is about a $33 million revenue loss, prioritizing, I guess, budget cutbacks in a way to try to minimize the impact upon our full-time staffing.
And practically, the reality is you'll see a drop of how many students?
Yeah, we had peaked at about 9,100 students about 2 years ago. We did have a plan to drop to about 7,200 students over a 3-year period. What has occurred is that we have dropped, I guess, more rapidly, and also have dipped below the targeted enrollment of about 7,100. So at this point, we are targeting about 5,400 students. And that has happened from 9,100 to 5,400 over a period of 2 years, as opposed to 9,100 to 7,100 over 3 years. So it's kind of a big deal, and certainly left us scrambling.
Yeah, big numbers, big drop there for sure. So how do you make CBU smaller to try and cover some of the losses or make up for some of the losses, but keep that academic integrity and the interest in CBU alive?
Yeah, so, first of all, we had structured the organization in a way that we had planned through the managed decline to drop to about 7,000 students. So really what we're dealing with is how to close the delta between that and about 5,400. So the board authorized, I guess, a 3-year financial plan to achieve a balanced budget. So we're not panicking. We're going to go at this over a period of a couple of years. We have made some moves, for example, moving all of our off-campus operations back to the CBU campus effective this summer. And any big ticket items that we would have had in our operating budget. All in, I guess that was helpful in dropping the real targeted deficit this year would be about 6.8 million. Next year, we're looking at about 3.9 million. And then finally, a balanced budget is the goal for 27, 28, if everything works out according to the underlying assumptions.
And so in all of that, does the recent funding agreement with the province help things?
Well, it's, we've been dealing with funding agreements from the province for many, many years now. We certainly welcome the accountability measures in the document. Certainly, the 2% funding increase on the grant was helpful. But the big story for us really has been the international student drop, which ties to the IRCC policy initiative. So of the $33 million, certainly over 32 million of that comes from the IRCC decisions.
Let me ask you about that. I read 77% of your enrollment was international students, if that's correct. Does CBU, I don't know if regret is the right word, does it regret building an operating model so reliant on foreign students?
Well, first of all, we realized, I guess, a couple of years ago when we were so successful in the international market that we had probably grown too much. So that was the rationale for moving back from 9,100 back to 7,000 students. So we had planned for that, and that was well in hand. The problem more acutely right now is that not only have we dropped to 7,000, we're going to be going down to 5,400. That is the challenge. Even at 5,400 students, our reliance upon the international market will be over 50%. That still places the institution at a higher reliance on the international market than any other university in Nova Scotia, and indeed most universities in the country. So there is a continuing exposure to the international market dynamics. Is that the right thing to do? Well, the alternative would be to shrink the university to about 3,000 students. and that we learned many years ago is not without its challenges, and it may not be sustainable. Furthermore, I think what we're dealing with here is the international students have not only been good for the institution, they've been really good for the community here, serving labor market needs in Cape Breton and beyond for the last several years. So there's a lot of carry-on impacts to decisions we make in around enrollment targets.
Okay, and just quickly before I let you go, what is your advice for government when it comes to dealing with that issue of international students at university campuses? What would you like to see government do?
Make room for some differentiation for regional circumstances. For example, in Atlantic Canada, the Atlantic Immigration Program of only 2021, I believe, was when it was firmly put in place, recognized that Atlantic Canada was just in a different place in terms of need for population as well as labor market force needs. That hasn't changed in 2025. And regrettably, the federal policy initiative was taking the same approach right across the country. And for Nova Scotia, for Atlantic Canada to lose the number of students we did through international recruitment, that's a bigger deal than what it may be in an Ontario market, for example. So regional differentiation would be, I guess, the top line message.
Okay. And on that point, we'll leave things. Gordon McGuinness, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Coming up, Conclave begins. Catholic cardinals are sequestered inside the Sistine Chapel until a successor to Pope Francis is chosen. And dozens are dead after India launches overnight airstrikes on Pakistan, driving fears the two countries are heading for war. Welcome back. Prime Minister Mark Carney updated the premiers today on his high-stakes meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump. Although tariffs have not been lifted, the federal and provincial leaders are optimistic progress is being made. And as Olivia Stefanovich reports, the White House is as well.
It's a great honor to have Prime Minister Mark Carney with us.
A flattering video from the White House, in stark contrast to the state of Canada-U.S. relations hitting a historic low.
And I think the relationship's going to be very strong.
U.S. President Donald Trump spoke highly of Prime Minister Mark Carney after their meeting.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm on the edge of my seat.
And although Trump continues to advocate for Canada to become the 51st state,
Takes two to tango, right?
he scaled back the rhetoric and other insults.
As far as calling him Governor Carney, no, I haven't done that yet, and maybe I won't. I did have a lot of fun with Trudeau, but I think this is a big step up. It's a good step up for Canada.
It's good for the country. It's good for the U.S.
Premiers say they're encouraged after hearing from Carney in a First Minister's meeting.
I don't think I'd have the restraint that he had yesterday, to be very frank.
We were all grateful that the meeting went the way that it did, knowing how some other meetings have gone in that exact same office with other world leaders.
I thought he handled it really well and stood up for Canada.
High praise also coming from voters.
I feel much more calmer, especially with the last 2 months where everything was very hectic.
Hopefully it's a good step forward, but I don't think a lot came out of it from the sounds of things.
There was no white smoke, but the relationship was in smoking ruins beforehand.
Now that a reset appears to be taking shape, the focus going forward is on resolving trade issues and striking a new economic and security partnership with the U.S.
I think it was good Prime Minister Carney reminded the president that we're the largest customer, the largest client of the United States.
Carney and Trump agreed to continue discussions over the coming weeks. Their next face-to-face is scheduled to take place at the G7 summit in Kananaskis, Alberta. But first, Carney is scheduled to meet with Canada's premiers in person in Saskatoon on June 2nd. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
Black smoke has emerged from the Sistine Chapel chimney. It signals no pope has been elected in the first vote by the cardinals at the Papal Conclave. 133 cardinals will remain sequestered until a successor to Pope Francis is chosen. Juanita Taylor reports from Vatican City.
Well, black smoke billowed out at about 9 p.m. local time here at the Vatican, and people had been waiting all day for this moment. People were saying that they were feeling curious and intrigued, yet they were patient for that moment.
I've never waited 2 hours to look at some smoke, but that was worth it.
I just think it's really lovely. I love the sense of community the church kind of brings together, and I can really appreciate that even as someone who's not Catholic.
The challenges in this conclave are many. One Vatican observer said that this conclave could prove to be unpredictable, especially with 133 voting cardinals. Many of them know fewer than a dozen, so they'll need time to get to know each other, but more importantly, to assess the front runners. Now, Pope Francis didn't have many gatherings of cardinals, so there were fewer occasions for them to meet compared to a previous pope, so they are largely strangers, and especially those who come from the peripheries. Now, geopolitics is likely to weigh more heavily in this conclave than in those past. Ongoing wars in Ukraine and Gaza, the continuation of Francis's outreach to the Muslim world, and mounting concerns over the current administration in the United States. Now, how long will it be until a new pope is elected? Well, that's anybody's best guess. We know that it takes about, on average, 5 to 6 rounds of voting, and only the first round has been done today. The second round will continue in the morning. And just given the size and shape of this College of Cardinals, any outcome is still possible as they get to work choosing their next leader of the Catholic Church. Juanita Taylor, CBC News, Vatican.
Tensions are soaring between nuclear-armed neighbors India and Pakistan. India launched airstrikes overnight Wednesday in Pakistan and territory it controls in the disputed Kashmir region. As the CBC's Salima Shivji reports from Mumbai, the attacks were in response to last month's massacre of tourists in Indian-administered Kashmir.
A burst of explosions overnight, missiles firing into Pakistan and Pakistan-controlled Kashmir. The chaos continued when day broke, Pakistani forces exchanging heavy artillery fire with Indian soldiers, causing panic along the line of control, the contested border in disputed Kashmir. Homes and mosques left shattered and empty. We were asleep, this man says, then we felt so much fear.
These actions were measured, non-escalatory, proportionate, and responsible.
That's how India describes it, precision strikes, only against camps where New Delhi says militants trained, no military installations. Pakistan sees it very differently, as an act of war.
It is India which cowardly attacked Pakistan.
He says more than 24 people died in the strikes. As families of the victims mourn and bury their dead, the angry rhetoric has reached a fever pitch. Pakistan's prime minister says his army shot down several Indian fighter jets, a claim that can't be verified, as he vows to take corresponding action to retaliate. In India, there were cheers for the strikes against a hated neighbor, seen as vengeance for this militant attack last month, the deadliest targeting civilians in years in Indian-controlled Kashmir, the divided region that India and Pakistan have been fighting over for decades.
The international community is speaking with one voice on this. The U.S., China, the United Nations, and others all urging calm, hoping that the two nuclear-armed countries will dial down the tension.
But the fear of more violence is real, with each side wanting to project strength. Experts say Pakistan can't not retaliate.
Is there a neutral international arbiter strong enough which can control and stop these two countries?
With the world distracted and multilateralism weak, as those in Kashmir along the line of control pack up and flee, bracing for more strikes. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Mumbai.
Israeli airstrikes have killed at least 48 people in Gaza, including women and children, according to local health authorities. Medics say 2 attacks targeted a school Wednesday in a suburb of Gaza City, killing 15 people, and that a later Israeli airstrike hit near a crowded market and restaurant in the city, killing at least 33 people. The dead and wounded were rushed away in the back of pickup trucks and carts. The latest bloodshed comes after Israel approved a plan to expand military operations in the territory. The sexual assault trial of 5 former World Junior hockey players continues in London, Ontario. The complainant faced a 4th day on the stand as she was cross-examined by defense lawyers. Ali Chiasson has the latest from the courthouse, but first a warning, some may find the language in the story disturbing.
Former World Junior hockey goalie Carter Hart was the first of the 5 accused to enter the courthouse today, again walking past a group of activists in support of EM. Inside, Hart's lawyer Megan Savard asked the complainant about her behavior in the hotel room with the hockey players, a time when EM said she felt numb and on autopilot. Savard, one of your coping mechanisms on this unusual night may have been offering sex? EM replied, I was not acting like myself. Savard, you were acting like a porn star? EM, yes. I felt that was the thing they wanted. We spoke with Sam Puhala, a defense attorney not involved in this case, about the defense strategy in this line of questioning.
So for the Crown's case, they have to prove consent beyond a reasonable doubt. It is a high standard, and many of the questions that are being asked from the defense lawyers so far are attacking her credibility and reliability with respect to those issues. It really has to do with whether or not there's a reasonable doubt being raised as to her consent.
This is EM's 4th straight day on the stand, and she's expected to be here throughout the rest of the week as she faces cross-examination from 3 other defense teams. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, London, Ontario.
New research led by a Canadian scientist is highlighting how the climate crisis will affect the newest generation. It says those born in this decade could see extreme weather far more frequently than those before them. As the CBC's Anand Ram has the details.
In Paris or in Pakistan, unseasonable heat hit early this year. Not yet dangerous, but new research says the children of today will face climate extremes like heat waves and floods far more often than previous generations. A study in Nature calculated extreme exposures by birth year, comparing those born as far back as 1960 to the year 2020 across multiple scenarios of global warming.
even limiting climate change to 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial temperatures, we still have about half of the global 2020 birth cohort projected to experience unprecedented exposure.
The implication is that for younger generations, scenes like this, considered once in a lifetime, may become one of many in their lifetimes.
It's quite damning, and I hope that most people find this concerning.
Zoe Keary-Matzner is one of 7 young people currently suing the Ontario government, claiming it's not doing enough to protect them against climate change. She finds the report validating.
It shows how strong our case is, and it also just further demonstrates the reality that our government is failing to acknowledge and that they need to be held accountable for.
While these findings aren't set in stone, experts say reducing the impact requires collective action.
We don't have to choose this future for our kids. And there are different scenarios as to how aggressive we decrease our fossil fuel consumption.
Driven by humanity's burning of fossil fuels, the planet is currently on track for 2.7 degrees of warming by the year 2100. But keep in mind, the study didn't account for intensity, meaning a devastating heat wave today may yet be stronger in a warmer future. Anand Ram, CBC News, Toronto.
A Japanese pitcher is set to make history as the first woman to play pro baseball in Canada. 6-time world champ Ayami Sato has signed with the Toronto Maple Leafs of the Inter-County Baseball League. Megan Fitzpatrick reports.
History will soon be made at this baseball diamond in Toronto by this woman, Ayami Sato. When the Japanese pitcher takes to the mound on Sunday, she'll be the first woman to play in a professional men's baseball game in Canada. Her team, the Toronto Maple Leafs. The other Leafs. They're part of the Inter-County Baseball League, which is more than a century old. When they reached out, she jumped at the offer.
I'm so happy and very excited.
Sato's English is limited. Through a translator, she said the guys on the team have welcomed her warmly.
They're really great, and I'm looking forward to playing with them.
Sato is considered one of the best female pitchers in the world. Among her accomplishments, multiple world championships with Japan's national team. The Leafs hope Sato will be a star attraction.
We're so excited to have her, so we want to break some barriers down and give her a great opportunity.
Play through the game.
Canadian Baseball Hall of Famer Ashley Stevenson played against Sato.
She's an outstanding pitcher, like the best pitcher I ever faced in international competition for sure.
But Stevenson wishes women like Sato had a pro league of their own here, like soccer and hockey.
There's all these female leagues now that are doing so well and they're so successful. And so a part of me, wishes we had that for baseball too.
So do these little girls, who are also rooting for Sato as she gets set to make her pro debut.
It's not fair that women don't have their own league, and it's very strong of her to play in a men's league, and I really look up to her.
I'm glad she's getting a chance to show her talents to everyone else, and I'm proud.
Back at the Maple Leafs practice, Sato said she's both nervous and excited for the season ahead.
I will try my best.
She was happy to hear about what the young girls said and hopes to inspire them. It seems she's already hit that target out of the park. Megan Fitzpatrick, CBC News, Toronto.
Still with sports, the Edmonton Oilers set a new NHL playoff record last night.
A dart to Nugent Hopkins, Kane across, Hyman's open, shot, score! Zach Hyman gives Edmonton its first lead. It's 3-2 with 3 to go.
That's Edmonton's Zach Hyman with the game winner late in the third, a 4-2 comeback victory for the Oilers over the Vegas Golden Knights. The win makes the Oilers the first team in NHL history to come from behind in 5 consecutive wins during a single playoff run. Game 2 of that series goes tomorrow, but there's still plenty on tap for Canadian NHL fans tonight. The Toronto Maple Leafs play the Florida Panthers. Toronto leads that series 1-0. And the Winnipeg Jets host the Dallas Stars for their series opener. Canada's main stock index closed up along with U.S. markets as there were hints of cooling in the trade tensions between the U.S. and China, while the Federal Reserve keeps its key rate unchanged. Here's a look at the numbers as we head to break. You know, we were talking earlier about things greening up in Nova Scotia. It is amazing the last few days alone how the leaves are really popping on the trees. Maybe another few days or they're going to be out in full.
Yeah, for sure. And the grass greening up and starting to grow. I think you'll hear it growing after the rain that we're having right now, and then those temperatures really bumping up tomorrow afternoon, looking pretty good. We'll get to that in a sec. First, have a look at our viewer picture of the day. And this one, we're going to zoom in on Cape Breton, and haven't been here in a while as we have a look, hopefully. If my clicker is going to work. There we go. As we zoom in on Dominion. This is Dominion Beach. And Delena, thank you very much for this. Have a look. I mean,
lovely night. Lovely. That's an evening sky, I'm assuming, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe so.
That's beautiful.
Dominion Beach, beautiful spot. Thank you so much. Ryan's picks at cbc.ca. Have a look at this. Dominion Beach tomorrow will be around 18 degrees with a nice offshore flow there, not coming in from the water, of course, all very important this time of year. 18 to 22 looks to be about the range tomorrow, but cooler, closer to that Atlantic coastline in those southwest winds. And obviously Yarmouth, the Tri-County area will be cooler in the onshore winds there as well. Now, as we look at Friday, clouds stubborn, the winds shifting back to a north to northeast. So Tri-County area will be warmest. That's our best chance of cracking the mid-teens, likely single digits along that north coast. There are those showers, which will again clear as we move into the Thursday afternoon time frame. So looking pretty good there. And then that next system crawling in for Saturday, and that will, by the looks of things, really dampen things up into the Saturday afternoon time frame. Mother's Day looking pretty good Sunday afternoon.
All right, fingers crossed for that. Thanks so much, Ryan. Speaking of rain, heavy rain and flash flooding in Jordan recently forced hundreds of tourists to be evacuated from the ancient city of Petra. Video released by the tourism officials shows water gushing down the towering cliffs. The archaeological site is one of the most recognized and popular attractions in the region.
The iconic place carved into the sandstone known as the Treasury has been featured in several movies, including the Indiana Jones movie, The Last Crusade.
Ah, that was the backdrop, huh?
Yes.
All right, thanks for that. That's it for us tonight. So thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Good night.